My name is Willie Akachar, registration number 18. I'm taking you through introduction. In our introduction, we defined PPP as a contract between the private party and the government, in which the private party will provide the public assets or services, and they bear the risk, the management and responsibility for that. And in turn, they are paid the remuneration based on the performance. We also define the unsolicited proposal according to World Bank as a proposal not requested by the government and usually originates from the private sector. They send the proposals to the government for their approval. Of course, in this case, they use their money for funding the proposals. So we are saying worldwide, over years, the demand for public services has been increased, and this has forced government to begin seeking for help from the private sector. We are saying as a result, private participation in infrastructure in developing countries increased dramatically in the 15 years. For the last 15 years, there has been increase in demand for public services, and the government has come in to get the assistance from the private sector. However, this has also not come with ease. There are also other issues which has been associated to. But for the government, their focus was to get the technical and managerial expertise from the private sector in terms of construction, operation, and maintenance of these projects. We also look at how PPP projects are procured, and we say there are two ways we can do it. One, we say you can do it as in form of solicited proposals, where the governments advertise or call for private sector to come and apply for the projects, and then they work upon. Or the private sector themselves sends their proposals to the government, and in this case they use their own money to build or facilitate the implementation of the project. We are saying there are so many private sectors that always sends their proposals to the government seeking for approval for specific projects in which they want to implement. And now as government, they have to go through these projects and then see the benefits that they are going to get from it. Because even if they receive the proposal, they don't just take any other proposal. They first have to go through and see the benefits they're going to get from the project. Because remember, majority of these projects also have risks attached to, costs attached to. So the government has to go through and select which one to take. We're saying unsolicited proposals may also create challenges like risks, providing poor value for money, particularly if the government chooses to negotiate with PPP directly. Of course, bear in mind the government has to consider value for money and also risk involved in each proposal before they take up a project. We also looked at the processes involved in unsolicited proposals. We said the first thing they need to do is submission of the proposal by the private sector. Remember in the beginning we said these people make proposals and send to the government for approval. So that's the first thing they do, they submit the proposal to the government. And then of course the government have to do the evaluations of the proposals. Then after the evaluation, they study the proposals. That's when we say development of the studies for the USB project. The government puts the team together to study the project. And then of course, if they are okay with terms and conditions, with the risk involved, the issue of value of money into considerations, they now prepare the projects. And then the implementation now takes place. So those are basically 5 steps. They follow submission of the proposal, then the government evaluate it, and then of course the government of the studies about the proposal, and Then of course they prepare the proposals, and then the implementation now takes place. We also look at some of the guiding principles for unsolicited proposals. According to the World Bank, there are so many principles that you need to follow, that the government follow when they are selecting this proposal. The first thing, they looked at public interest. Every project that is being implemented should be able to meet the needs of the public, should be able to meet the interests of the public, otherwise it will not succeed. We also put into consideration the value for money. The government should only structure the projects as PP if they are expected to get something out of it. Like for example, we talked about the expatriates, building the human resource development. So the government looks at the value for money. They don't just speak. So the other thing is affordability. Of course, you have to look at their capacity to afford the project in terms of costs. They do cost-benefit analysis before they accept the project. Fair market pricing. Of course, you get various proposals and then you analyze the prices based on the market. You compare and select the best proposals. Transparency and accountability. Of course, once we are selecting the proposal, we have to make sure there is transparency and accountability is in place. The public or the beneficiary has to be in a know. There's various stakeholders has to be in a know. We don't just choose the proposal as an individual. People have to come in place and take choice. We also look at alignment of PPP and US procedures. Of course, the proposal, the unsolicited proposal must be in line with the PPP rules and regulations, the government. We have to make sure it is in line. That is all for introductions. You can now call the second presenter to come in and take over from here. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. I am Oguli John Michael. My registration number is 0036. Colleagues, I'm going to take you through the Asia Pacific region and the Latin America region. Colleagues, Asia Pacific region comprises of North Korea, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, India, and Australia. Then Latin America comprises of Chile, Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil, Peru, Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, and others. These countries have been noted to have vibrant economies that have led to these PPPs. In Latin America, Chile, Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru have established private-public partnership programs. Asia Pacific region and Latin America continue to experience the fastest growth in the global economy, with a strong demand for infrastructure investments across most sectors. However, the capacity of regional governments to finance infrastructure is limited, and therefore there is a need, a strong commitment to privately finance infrastructure and the important contribution that they bring. Colleagues, these have successfully attracted the demand for infrastructure has successfully attracted private capital to build, operate efficient infrastructure projects with a particular success in Chile, Brazil, Mexico. In this presentation, we are going to dwell so much basically on Chile, where Chile in the 1990s introduced voucher system and the provision of infrastructure in the process of attracting private investors in the education system. In the process of voucher system, here the government was providing food to students in these institutions, and for infrastructure they were providing structures. Therefore, in the process, when Chile introduced the voucher system, it means that students mostly joined in institutions, private institutions that adapted, that moved in to adapt the government policy of providing the food to students. Colleagues, you will note that in Chile, the schools that adapted the voucher system, the provision of infrastructure, were basically those from the urban areas, meaning that very few institutions from the rural areas benefited. And that's why you will see, when we go ahead, we shall note that most institutions, most students were from the urban area. And as such, three challenges. Therefore, faced with the challenges, government and worldwide has responded by developing strategies to attract private involvement through PP. That is a contracting mechanism used to acquire specified services. Colleagues, the use of voucher system was able to do the following. Enrollment increased in private schools. You can see from there the percentage rose from 14% in 1980 to 40% in 2003. This enrollment was 98% only in urban areas. Of course, there is expansion of the numbers that were absorbed and retained in the schools. More students were absorbed and retained in the schools. Fourth grade students were able to achieve higher grades in the private schools that absorbed, that took up the voucher system, and compared to those that were from private independent institutions. However, we note that in the voucher system, like I indicated, that mostly students from the urban areas were the ones that benefited. As such, very few from the rural areas. Also, the urban schools were only selecting students that they were able to take, meaning that the cost of preparing a student in the urban areas, because these institutions, these private schools, were able to select compared to public schools that are supposed to take wholesale. So the cost of preparing a student in public schools was slightly higher than those that had selected. However, we note that despite the disadvantages of voucher system in Chile, at least the number of students that were enrolled in schools was slightly higher compared to the time before it started. Colleagues, that is what I had in my presentation. I want to welcome the third presenter, who is Jimmy.
Yes, you're ready.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm Jimmy Bongo, registration number 0050. I'm going to take you through the PPP in South Africa. What is interesting is that in South Africa, the government is looking towards to having a private partnerships to improve infrastructure network in the country and to enhance service delivery. They are hoping that the development finance model, where the state shares the risk and responsibility with the private sector, will improve control of assets and eventually leading to improved service delivery, while avoiding the pitfalls of privatization, unemployment, and high cost of prices and corruption. In South Africa, the government introduced the regulatory framework for national and provincial government to enter into private partnership arrangement. This is guided by the Treasury Regulations 16 issued by Public Financial Management Act 1995. However, there is still no regulations. The regulation doesn't make provisions for unsolicited proposal. It mainly focuses on solicited proposal. In South Africa, PPP is mainly in the transport sector, with an exception to the national PPP framework. In South Africa, the government thinks that PPP potentially bring efficiencies of business to public service delivery and avoid the politically content aspect of privatization. It is also believed that PPP allow government to retain ownership while contracting with the private sector to perform specific functions such as building, maintaining, and operating infrastructures. Let's move on. The government believes that revenue earned by leasing state-owned assets or alternatively paying the private sector to improve infrastructures and better service delivery improves the economy as a whole, as opposed to government implementing on their own. And they believe that private sector can do a good job efficiently and at a lower price than the government would do, where they get reimbursed for what they have done and then a premium. In South Africa, the unsolicited proposal is managed by the South African National Road Agency Limited as an arm's length agency of the Ministry of Transport. Since its inception, 4 proposals has been presented and 3 passed the review stage and has been approved. Meanwhile, 1 didn't go through. It was rejected during the screening. The project takes about 17 months for preliminary approval to submission of counter proposal. Away from South Africa, unsolicited proposal in Sweden. Just like any other EU country, these PPPs have not been so much developed because of the cohesion policy of the EU government. However, of late, they are gaining ground as a model for governance and management of natural resources of the country. It's mainly in the rural area where government is in partnership compared to the urban settings. The country currently do not have any legal framework that guides the PP operations. That is it from me. We can push to the next presenter, but before that, we can look at the common benefit, the systems that the government use for handling unsolicited proposal, both in South Africa and Sweden. They use the 3 approaches: the bonus system, the Swiss challenge system, and then the best and final offer system. The bonus system is used in other countries, like my colleague has highlighted, in Chile, Korea, and the advantage to the original project proponent is in form of a premium using the bidding procedure, where the person who presented unsolicited proposal is given a premium as opposed to the person bidding directly. This challenge system is used in other states as well: India, Italy, Philippines, Taiwan, and other states the world. I can invite the next presenter.
Thank you, Bongo, for the presentation of South Africa and Sweden. Me, I'm going to take you through Australian approach. By the name Mutesi Juliet, registration number 0031. In Australia, unsolicited proposal are project proposed directly to government by private parties rather than in response to a request from government. Projects in New South Wales that have progressed from unsolicited proposals include the Crown Sydney Resort at Buaragori, then North Connect, and the partial lease of Australia. Unsolicited proposals are received and assessed for strategic priority, value for money, public interest, and justification for direct negotiation. The government's aim is not to find new sources of capital investment, but to employ privately financed projects only where they can provide real value for money through innovation, effective risk transfer, and efficient management of infrastructure and delivery of associated services. The government developed the partnership framework as an extension of the capital framework of major capital projects, where government engages with private sector to a greater degree. The partnership framework aim is to support private sector investment in socio-economic infrastructure and related services, where the government can demonstrate clearly the value for money of such investments. Then these guidelines, there are some guidelines that Australians use, and these guidelines aim to provide consistency and confidence of the market on how government will assess and solicit proposals against its key principles of meeting its strategic objectives and providing value for money. The government also needs to comply with common law principles of fairness and transparency in procurement. Where appropriate, the government will apply processes within the capital framework and the partnership framework to promote standardization and consistency in capital projects planning and delivery. I wanted to take you through how Australian process is when they are using unsolicited proposals. They use what we call concept submission, where the proposal is, they come up with a proposal and submit it to the government. Then detailed submission, where they will submit the registration certificates or certificates of incorporation and other required documentations. Then they will go into tender, which is the third phase, where they will pass a process of evaluation, where the government will evaluate their bids, and then they pick the one which will work for the government. Then a successful unsolicited proposal is likely to be a high standard and well developed, and to address substantively some of all of the following criteria. And these are the criteria they follow when they are picking those proposals. I said in the third phase, this is where they make the tenders. So this is the criteria that they use. The criteria that they use when they are passing out the proposal, or the winning proposal. First criteria will be public interest. Always, according to Australian approach, for them they follow a proposal, or they pick a proposal which has public interest, satisfying a community need, or otherwise providing a clear and measurable benefit of the residents of that area. Then appropriate government investment. This is not justification for direct negotiation. This, we see it being demonstrating that the public interest is best served by the government negotiating directly within the proponent rather than by engaging in an open competitive process. Then there is value for money. Value for money, this is where they will say delivering an outcome to the territory that it can determine its value for money in the absence of competitive market. Another criteria where they pick these unsolicited proposals, being affordable within the government's budget, funding priorities, and fiscal strategy. When we say proponent is almost like a proposal. Then we look at feasibility, being technically, commercially, and practically feasible. So that any contracting authority can see that this project is feasible. Then capacity and capability. Here it looks at the proponent demonstrating that it has the financial and technical capacity, capability, and experience to deliver the proposed outcomes successfully. In considering whether a proposal is appropriate for the government investment, the government generally will favor ideas that align with its current strategic objectives. Because of time, so that my colleague can also get you through the MENA approach and other approaches as they come.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much the previous speakers who have presented about the PPPs and unsolicited proposals in the other regions. My name is Juliet, registration number 0023, and I'll be taking you through the unsolicited proposals in the MENA region. As a point of introduction, the MENA region includes Middle East and North African countries, and these are countries like Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Syria, United Arab Emirates, and so many other countries. Among these countries, in our group here, we have seen that Egypt is perceived to be one of the leaders in the PPP field in the Middle and North African countries. So for that matter, we shall use Egypt as our case study for the MENA region. We have also seen that Egypt, Kuwait, and Turkey have formed central units to drive the PPP forward, while countries such as Morocco and Tunisia are still looking forward to the PPP. So that means that Morocco and Tunisia have not really embraced so much the PPPs and the unsolicited proposals in their countries. However, we need to note that there has been some great improvement in the management of PPPs in the MENA region. And like we have said, we are using Egypt as our case study for all this region. So the legal framework of Egypt, as you can see, it has Egypt Public-Private Partnership Law, number 67 of 2010. There are also other applicable sectoral laws in the PPP sector. There is Egyptian electricity law. There is a PPP unit, and it has its policies. The Supreme Committee for Public-Private Partnership Affairs, and then finally the Partnership Central Unit within the Ministry of Finance for the government of Egypt. Egypt's Finance Ministry has got a PPP policy which was amended recently in 2018, and this was basically done in order to incentivize the public sector so that they can play a big role and be able to motivate them to submit unsolicited proposals. In that policy, Egypt requires the private sector to submit proposals for projects, and then the proposals allow the government to do a bigger part of the subcontracting. Government has the powers to negotiate and come up with the best bidders without taking the project through the normal competitive bidding like the PPDA or the normal procurement processes. The policy also requires the setting up of specialized committee with members from the finance and planning ministries who do the assessments and they determine who could execute the project under the PPP model. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how it is done in Egypt. And I'll invite our team leader to do the summary, the wrap-up of the presentations. Thank you very much.
Conclusions, according to the World Bank, much as the unsolicited proposal is good, but the government has to look into some of the key risks involved, the financial weaknesses involved, and then the human resource required to perform the proposals before they take up the project. That's according to the World Bank. We have to look at those key areas. The risk involved, the human resource.